Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get headaches. Not the kind that completely knock me out, thankfully. If you deal with those, I'm so sorry. But I do get the kind that sit right behind my eyes or the ones that wrap around the back of my head. You know what those ones feel like? And when I get those little by little throughout the day, they make everything that I'm doing feel so much harder. So when I get one of those headaches, I do what most of us do. I take a pill. Maybe I take 2 Excedrins. That's my drug of choice. And usually it works. Within a few minutes, the pressure starts to go down. Maybe an hour or so later, I feel better and I can move on with my day. But here's the thing, the headache often comes back. Maybe not that same day, but it always seems like I get another one because the pill that I took didn't change my caffeine habit or hydrate me or lower the volume of my students' voices. And it definitely doesn't ease financial pressure or improve my sleep. It doesn't calm my nervous system. What the pill did was treat my headache, but it didn't heal what was actually causing the pain. Okay. And I'm so grateful for that pill. I love a good headache pill. I love that feeling of relief that takes the edge off in the moment when I'm not feeling very well. But I've also started noticing something else over time. And that is that when I start paying attention to those deeper things, like drinking more water, sleeping better, when I go outside and exercise or slow down and reduce my stress, guess what? The headaches become less frequent. Not because I'm managing them better, but because I'm healing what's underneath them. And the more I've reflected on this, the more that I've started to realize that this is exactly what happens in parenting. Because in parenting, there are so many pills. And just like my trusty Excedrin that I love, sometimes they work really beautifully. But sometimes they only treat the symptom without healing what's underneath. And so today, I want to talk about the difference between fixing and treating and healing. Because once we understand that difference, it actually can completely change the way that we experience parenting. Now, if you spend any time researching parenting, which I'm guessing you have because you're here, you've probably noticed that there are a lot of solutions out there. A lot of scripts and step by steps. Do this, don't do this. A lot of strategies designed to fix a specific behavior. Try this, say this, follow these 3 steps, use this formula, right? And I want to be clear, I'm going to say this a lot during this episode. I am not against using these tools. In fact, I use them all the time with my kids and my students. I teach them in my coaching, and we've even learned a lot of them here on this podcast together. Because sometimes in the middle of a hard parenting moment, having something concrete to reach for can actually be really incredibly helpful, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed or triggered or exhausted. Sometimes we just need something simple or immediate, and those tools absolutely can be that for us. They can de-escalate situations, they can help you respond more calmly and offer structure, they can even reduce conflict in your home, and those things do matter in the short term. But over time, what tends to happen is that the same problems keep showing up. The same arguments, the same triggers, the same patterns, and those same feelings of frustration and guilt and disconnection, even when we're using all of the right strategies, even when we're trying really hard to follow all the good advice. So maybe the goal isn't just to fix the moment then. Maybe the deeper work is to understand why those moments keep happening in the first place. Because if we're only focused on fixing behavior without understanding the emotional and relational and nervous system patterns that are underneath those things, we might find ourselves reaching for more and more and more tools without experiencing that deeper transformation that we're really hoping for. This is not about abandoning those strategies. It's about understanding their role and where they fit into this bigger parenting picture. Okay? So as I look at my own parenting experience and the work that I do with parents, I've noticed that there are 3 different layers of change. There's fixing, there's treating, and there's healing. And all 3 have a place, and all 3 can be helpful, but they create very different kinds of change. Okay, so let's explore these together and start with that first layer. Layer 1 is fixing, which is focused on behavior. Fixing is where most of the parenting advice lives. It's where we're trying to change what we can see, the behavior, the words, the actions. I'm sure you have experienced situations like this in your parenting where maybe your child is hitting their sibling, and so you step in and separate them. Maybe they're refusing to get ready for school, and so you create some sort of reward chart or system. Maybe your child is talking back, and so you have to enforce a consequence, or your child is melting down in the grocery store, so you just abandon the cart and drive home. Okay, these are all fixes. Fixes aren't bad. Sometimes they're necessary because they restore us back to a sense of safety and structure and help us and our kids to feel more grounded. But fixing focuses on the outside, what we can see, without always understanding the deeper need. Okay, because behavior, as we know, is communication. And when we only focus on fixing the behavior, we might be missing the message our child is really trying to communicate. So we might stop the hitting, but we're not understanding the frustration. Or we might stop the back talking, but we're not seeing the disconnection. You see what I mean? It's like giving our kids cough medicine. It helps them. That's good. Fixing changes what's happening out here with the other person, but it doesn't always change what's happening in here inside of us. And so that's where the second layer comes in. Layer 2 is treating, which is all about supporting the experience in the moment. All right. So treating goes a little bit deeper. Instead of just focusing on the behavior, all of that external stuff, we now are starting to focus on emotions and regulation and support. So this is where we might help our kids calm down or validate their feelings, maybe offer connection or co-regulate with them. Your child might be melting down, but instead of immediately correcting the behavior, maybe now you have space to sit with them in that and guide them toward calming down. Okay, so this is treating. You're addressing the experience, not just the behavior. And this is really, really powerful because now your child is learning that their emotions are okay. Someone is with me. I can calm down. But even here, even in this place of support, sometimes the same patterns are still going to keep turning up. Because while treating helps smooth over that moment, it still might not be addressing why the moment keeps happening. Why is your child so overwhelmed? Why are transitions so hard? Why do certain behaviors trigger you so strongly? And why do we keep having the same fight over and over again? Treating helps the moment internally within ourselves and within our kids. It's the equivalent of taking that headache pill that we were talking about earlier. But even though we fixed the behavior and we've treated this internal emotion of the moment, again, those patterns are still there. And that is what takes us to the third layer, and it's the healing layer. This is where we start to restore our sense of wholeness. Healing is where the deep transformation happens. And this isn't about your child. This is all about you. So healing looks like understanding your triggers, exploring your own childhood experiences and starting to integrate those, repairing attachment wounds, learning your nervous system and how to regulate it, practicing self-compassion, and reparenting yourself. Because when you begin to heal, you are then able to react less intensely. You can see others with more compassion. You can feel less threatened by the behavior of your kids and others. And you're able now to respond instead of react. And often you tend to not need as many scripts and strategies now because you're not just changing what you do, you're changing who you are. And your kids and your partner and other people can feel that. They can feel your calm and your presence and your safety, right? They feel this authenticity from you. And that is when parenting really starts to feel different. Not because you've found the perfect strategy finally, but because you're showing up from a more whole place. So those are the three layers. Fixing changes behavior. Treating supports the experience in the moment. And healing starts to transform you and the relationship. And when we understand these three layers, we can start using each one intentionally instead of relying on fixes alone to create that lasting change that we're really hoping for in our families. You know, the longer I've been on this parenting journey, the more I've realized that so much of parenting isn't actually about my kids. It's about me. It's about my triggers and my fears, expectations, my own nervous system, and my experiences growing up that are affecting how I show up as an adult. Because there have been moments, and maybe you've experienced this too, where my kids' behavior felt way bigger than it actually was. In the grand scheme of things, they're just kind of small blips, but they elicit huge reactions inside of me. Like they don't listen and suddenly I feel disrespected. Maybe they would throw a tantrum and suddenly I feel embarrassed, or they pull away and I start to feel rejected. And I remember thinking that the solution was to fix the behavior, make them listen, stop the tantrum, correct the attitude. And sometimes, honestly, that helps. It does fix it. But when I started to do my own healing work, my reactions began to change. My kids didn't change. I don't think they did, really, but I was starting to experience their behavior differently. I wasn't as quick to take things personally. I wasn't as overwhelmed by big emotions, and I wasn't as driven by the sense of fear or urgency to fix it now. Now, do I still take things personally? 100%. I literally had that happen just this last weekend, and my kids are adults, you guys. I still have things that come up that I have to confront and work through, that I have way more space for that than I used to. I have more compassion, I have more curiosity and more patience, not just with them, but with myself. And it's not because I found a better script or a better tool. It's because I'm healing. I'm healing my own experiences. I'm learning to heal my nervous system. And I'm learning to heal the parts of me that learn to expect embarrassment or rejection or disconnection. So now I'm able to see my kids' behavior as communication instead of defiance, right? I know how to repair when I make mistakes, and I'm able to show up more authentically because I know myself better. Healing doesn't make you perfect. That's not the point. It makes you more aware and more connected. It helps you parent from that place of wholeness instead of fear or shame or urgency. Now, I want to pause here for just a second because when we start talking about healing, sometimes it can sound like we should stop using those strategies altogether, like we should never use the scripts or implement structure or step in and correct behavior. But it's just the opposite. Because, like I said, I still take that headache pill sometimes. There's absolutely a place for fixes and treatments in parenting, just like we've talked about, because you're going to get exhausted and you're going to feel overwhelmed. And sometimes you'll just be in survival mode because there's so much going on. Sometimes you're just learning something new and you need support. Okay. And when that happens, those tools and frameworks are incredibly helpful. It is okay to need something to hold on to while we're doing this deeper work because healing takes time and it's not linear. If you're like me, it can feel like this tug of war between progress and defaults. Like you're taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, and then maybe 8 steps forward, but then maybe 12 steps back. It is work. It's effort, you guys. And in the middle of all of that inner seeking, we still have to live in these real moments with real children and real challenges. So we use the tools. We take the pills when we need them. And we also begin making those deeper changes that reduce how often we need them. So just like with headaches, I still take the pill when my head hurts. But I'm also learning what helps prevent those headaches in the first place, right? I'm trying to drink less Diet Coke. I should cross my fingers while I say that. I'm trying to drink less Diet Coke. I'm paying attention to my stress and all of those other things. And the same is true in parenting. You can do all of those helpful things and also be doing the deeper work of healing. And the thing is, as you do that work, your capacity increases. And over time, you'll find that you don't need as many fixes because you're not just managing behavior, you're healing those deeper patterns. And that is where transformation happens. All right. So to recap, fixing changes behavior. Treating supports the experience and the symptoms in the moment, and healing transforms us, allowing us to show up with greater presence and capacity and connection and authenticity. So remember, the goal is not to abandon all the pills, the strategies and tools and fixes, but to understand that they're temporary relief to support you as you do this deep internal work of parenting. I hope this offers some clarity in your own parenting experiences. I know it has been so helpful to me as I navigate healing in my own journey right along with you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you have a moment, it would mean so much if you could leave a 5-star review. I will see you next time here in the Parenting Lab, where we will continue to explore the art and science of parenting and put your parenting to the test. I'll see you all again next week. Take care.